and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I will be showing you how to read a crochet pattern. Most people are attracted to crochet by all the beautiful designs they may see, a new baby on the way or just something to do in front of the TV. They head to the shops, buy way too much wool, get their hooks and pick up the pattern, and then they have no idea what any of it means. Yep, we have all been there, don't worry, I'm here to help you try and make sense of it all. Before we go forward, I just want to say that I will not be explaining crochet symbols as I have been far too intimidated to try them. I will be focusing on reading US patterns rather than UK, though I will show you how to glean from a pattern which is which. I will be using screenshot examples of patterns where my fellow crocheters have asked for help from the crocheting community. I am not using these to disparage the pattern writer or to show up those asking for help. We all make mistakes and I am almost certain that I have lots of typos in my own patterns if you look close enough. So this takes us nicely into the first part of the tutorial, tips and tricks to remember when reading a pattern. I would have an abbreviation chart with you, especially at the beginning. Once you are a seasoned pattern reader, you shouldn't need one. And if the pattern has pictures, use them as a guide as you progress. Expect typos or mistakes. A simple mistake from the pattern writer can be incredibly confusing for someone learning and can fill you with lots of self-doubt. You can always ask the crocheting community, they're incredibly kind and helpful. And last but certainly not least, any decent pattern should have the number of stitches per row at the end of each line. Count your stitches regularly and make sure they match the pattern. Before we continue, if there are any parts of this you don't understand, please do watch the first parts of my How to Crochet series to brush up on any techniques and then come back to this tutorial. So let's begin where all patterns do, at the start. You'll either start with a pattern working in a magic ring or magic circle, or a slip knot from which you would then chain, then work into those chains. As a pattern writer, I would always try to specify when I'm using a slip knot, just for clarity, but not everyone does. It is also important to remember that not all patterns follow the same method. When working in the round, some pattern writers might choose to chain one at the end of the row to level up for the next row, while others don't. Telling the difference between the US and UK patterns should be more obvious to a more seasoned crocheter. You might find in published patterns that the pattern writer has used both terminologies, but that is quite rare. You will most likely have learnt that US and UK use the same stitches, but they just have different names for them. When a pattern starts with a double crochet into a magic ring, that's usually a telling sign that it is a UK pattern. A double crochet in US is a high tiered stitch, and it is unlikely that it will be used into a magic ring. I'm going to briefly show you an example of one of my own patterns and walk you through how I use basic maths to help write and check my workings are correct. As I mentioned before, it is essential when following a pattern to count your stitches in your work and make sure it matches the pattern. So as you can see, for the first row we are putting 4 single crochets into a magic ring. The second row I have just single crocheted into each stitch, so we still have 4 single crochets. For the third row I'm going to increase my stitches. And you might find that INC is used in place of this, but I choose to use 2SC, which is basically 2 single crochets which is going to go into one stitch. I don't personally use INC or INC, as I don't believe it is 100% clear how much you increase by or in what type of stitch. If I write 3 single crochets or 2 half double crochets, you know how many times of which stitch to increase by. So back to the pattern. So we're going to do 2 single crochets in one stitch, and then single crochet in the next stitch, and we're going to do that twice. For the fourth row we're going to do 2 single crochets into one stitch and then single crochet in the next 2, and we're going to do that twice. I like to write in the next stitch or the next 2 or the next 3 or the next 4, just for clarity for the people reading my pattern. I will show you later in examples where if the pattern isn't clear you might second guess yourself or the pattern. Row 5 follows the same idea, so we're doing 2 single crochets into one stitch and then single crochet in the next 3, doing that twice, and that gives us 10 stitches at the end of the row. So from row 3 to row 5 you are increasing by 2 each row. Now in row 6 I'm mixing it up a little. I'm going to put 3 single crochets into one stitch and then single crochet in the next 4. Doing that twice will create 14 stitches for that row. So let's double check the maths. So we are adding an extra 2 stitches twice. So we'll be adding 4 extra stitches to row 6. It is useful to note that using stitch markers for your row is incredibly important, even for seasoned crocheters. In a moment I will show you in detail the importance of making sure you're using all of the allotted stitches in your row and making sure you aren't exceeding past your stitch marker. And so from row 7 to row 11 you're following the same pattern, increasing by 4 stitches per row. As there is a picture of the pattern, use that to check your work looks the same or similar. For row 12 we just can single crochet in each stitch. For row 13 we will now decrease. In other patterns it may be called DEC, which implies that you'll be turning 2 stitches into 1. I prefer using single crochet 2 together for the same reason as before. You know what type of stitch and with how many stitches you are going to crochet together. So single crocheting 3 together, or half double crocheting 2 together. So returning to the pattern, when decreasing or single crocheting 2 together, you're turning 2 stitches into 1. And then you're going to single crochet in 14, and again single crocheting 2 together to make 1, and then single crochet in 16, and that will leave 32 stitches for that row. So by doing a single crochet 2 together twice in one row, you have taken away 2 stitches and thereby decreased. Again for row 14 we're going to single crochet 2 together to make the 1 stitch, then we're going to single crochet in the next 13, again single crochet 2 together to make the 1, single crochet in the next 15, and then it'll make 30. So that is a small example of my own pattern. There are hundreds of thousands of crochet patterns and they will all be slightly different in some way. So now I'm going to go through a few examples of patterns with you that your fellow crocheters have flagged up to be a bit confusing, and I'll try and tackle them with you. So in this small example the person is slightly confused about row 7. So you can see that they are using INC to indicate an increase as opposed to 2SC. We can assume it is single crochet as the other stitches are marked as so. So let's double check row 6 first before we tackle row 7. So 5 single crochets, we can assume they mean single crochet in the next 5 because we can see that they are using INC as their increase. A lot of pattern reading is assumption, but a basic knowledge of maths will help you come to terms with the pattern. So with 5 single crochets and then an increase, we can assume by 2, repeated 3 times, will give us 21. So we know that we have 21 stitches to use for row 7. Now for row 7, the increase does look a bit confusing. Does it mean increase by 3 or 3 increases in a row? It's not totally clear, but we can work this out. So the final number of stitches for row 7 is 27. So we can subtract the 8 single crochets and we can subtract the 7 single crochets, and that leaves us with 12 stitches. This implies that 3 INC means 2 single crochets in the next 3 stitches, because that makes 6, and 6 and 6 is 12. So 2 single crochets in the next 3, 6, plus 8 single crochets, plus 2 single crochets in the next 3, which is 6, plus 7 single crochets makes 27. You can also double check that they are using all the allotted stitches by checking the 3 plus 8 plus 3 plus 7, and that gives us 21, which we had in row 6. So just to check row 8, we're going to do a single crochet and then an increase, so 2 single crochets, which makes 3, and we'll times that by 3, so that gives us 9 stitches. And then we're going to do 8 single crochets, and then we're going to do again 1 single crochet and 2 single crochets for the increase, gives us 3, times 3 gives us 9, plus 7, and that gives us 33. So that pattern is correct. So for the next example, this person is asking how row 7 makes 42. It looks complicated, but it's actually very simple. Also to note, lots of patterns use the star symbol instead of a multiplication, so it effectively means repeat. So the pattern wants to increase by 15. We can just assume it is a standard increase by 2. So 2 times 15 gives us 30. Then add an extra 5. Now the decrease, it looks like they want you to do 3 decreases or single crochet 2 togethers in a row. So you can assume across 6 stitches you'll be decreasing to 3. And then adding 4 single crochets, and that does in fact give us 42. Now if you wanted to check that there were the correct number of original stitches from row 6, we'll count the 15 stitches that were increased, and then the 5, and then the 6 stitches that were decreased, and then the 4, which makes the 30 stitches from row 6. So this is a correct pattern, but it just looks a bit intimidating. So now for another example, and this one is a good one. This crocheter was using too many stitches when doing row 5, so she asked the crocheting community for help. It isn't totally clear, so I'll write it out for you. This being a UK pattern, it will use double crochet instead of single crochet, so don't let that confuse you. So let's add up as we go along and see what we make. So we're going to do a double crochet 6, we're going to increase twice, so 4, double crochet in 4, increase, so 2, double crochet in 4, increase, so 2, double crochet in 4, increase twice, so 4, double crochet in 4, and then increase, so 2. And this does in fact make 36. But our fellow crocheter said that there were too many stitches, which implies that there weren't enough stitches to go into from the original row. So let's count how many stitches you are actually using in the row. So we have 6 stitches that we double crochet into. Then we increase in 2 stitches, so that makes 2 stitches that are used. Another 4 stitches, 1 increase, another 4, another 1 increase, another 4, 1 increase in 2 stitches, so 2 stitches are used, another 4, and then 1 last increase. So adding those up, it does make 29. So our fellow crocheter wasn't wrong, the pattern was. In row 4 she had 24 stitches, so after completing row 5 she would have gone past her stitch marker by 5 stitches. Although the number of stitches adds up to make 36, it doesn't necessarily mean that the maths is correct. It is an easy mistake to make, but as a pattern writer it is something that we have to double check before we send it out into the world. So for the final example, the person asking for help is a little confused, and understandably. Not that the pattern is wrong, it's just that it is a little bit different to the average pattern. So it is saying to single crochet in the next 9, then working in the front loops only to increase, single crochet in the next 2, and then do that 6 times. Then returning back to the stitches as you would normally, single crochet in the next 3. So it's a bit all over the place. So I would write single crochet in the next 9, comma. I would then write in brackets another set of brackets stating the following was in front loops only. And then 2 single crochets, comma, single crochet in the next 2, and then close the brackets. And then times by 6, and then a single crochet in the next 3. By using brackets, it contains the instructions to the front loops only. Not all patterns are straightforward. They may be more complex, they may swap between front loops and back loops, or have increases and decreases in the same row. Which is why, referring back to the tips and tricks guide, have those abbreviation charts with you, use pictures as a guide and expect mistakes or typos. And always count your stitches, it will save you lots of time in the long run. And lastly, don't ever feel shy asking for help. The internet is full of crochet groups and they are proven to be a lovely supportive community, so please utilise their knowledge, they will be more than happy to help. And once you have fine-tuned your crocheting and pattern reading skills, you can pass on your own support to others. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and please subscribe to be notified when more of my tutorials and patterns are released. Share with fellow crocheters, friends and family, anyone who may be interested in learning a new skill. All of my tutorials are step by step, so I am with you throughout. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you back here soon. Goodbye.